order to not have to deal with this being two pieces anymore, what we're going to do is we're going to real quick kind of highlight how we'll put this backing plate on. Super simple. I don't care what your skill level is, anyone should be able to pull this off. So we've got it oriented correctly. What we want to do is showcase, obviously, the EVGA GeForce GTX 970. That'll be facing up. That'll kind of dress things up a little bit for us, if you will. Kind of picture it there. Still on the fence about painting it. If we did paint it, we would lose the GeForce GTX 970. I can get that cranked out again. At this point in time, I'm kind of more giddy just about getting the thing running or attempting to run. Whereas I feel like the problems I might have will be connecting things, BIOS, and installing Windows. So people never seem to cover that stuff in videos. It's just, you know, hey, we slapped it together and it runs. So I don't know. Hopefully that means it's pretty self-explanatory. But what you can do right here, if you pay attention, you see like those little silver inserts there. You got two on the edge, two in the middle. You've got one right here kind of by itself, and then as you would expect, you have two on the inside. So 2, 2, 2, and 1, that is going to be 7, and that corresponds directly with our card. It's on an anti-static bag here from the motherboard, thank you. That one right there is the tab. That's kind of our loaner right there. Right there we've got the corner. The SLI, that's essentially where that little cutout is, this notch that you see, so that's a good way to make sure you're oriented correctly. When you slide it over, these screws in the middle and that whole big cool looking center section is kind of exposed, so keep that in mind. The backing plate is supposed to help cooling. I'm not quite sure how, but I will take them at their word. And then of course the corner there, so we'll just come in and take these screws off. Our backing plates did come with the slightly longer screws. Again, these are probably the bare minimum, and so we're increasing the thickness just a little bit. So we'll want to go ahead and replace the screws. We'll bag and tag them just like we do with everything. So there we go. So we're going to go ahead and put our backing plate on, and then we can kind of just more easily mock this stuff up. Alright, I want to point out here before we get done, we've got 6 of the screws out. The 7th one here in the corner, kind of closest to your display port. What we have is a pesky little nut on the back side, so I think you can see it there. So I wish I'd have known that when I was in the shop earlier. The snow went away, but essentially I'm able to just kind of use my finger. These aren't super snug, so keep that in mind. They're not like working on a car where everything's torqued to 120 foot-pounds or something crazy. So you're able to just kind of hold that, use your screwdriver. By the way, speaking of that, these are not number 2s that you're going to need. This is actually, we've switched to a smaller bit. That's a number 1, so keep in mind. Big thing here is just you've got such small hardware and such big drops like we just had there because I'm filming. What you want to do is have a magnetic screwdriver. It will help out immensely. So we're going to go ahead though. We've got that off. We'll set this down, get the backing plate on, and install our longer screws. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so we got that taken care of. They even included another nut if you happen to lose that one. If you do lose it, make sure you don't lose it internally in the confines of the graphics card. That said, that definitely does dress it up, makes it look a lot better in my opinion. We might still paint it, I don't know. Like I said, right now I'm kind of anxious just to get this thing running and see what we've got. What I want to do now though, we've got another little, no we don't. Yes we do. I set the other screws aside. These 4 right here came with our Corsair power supply. And so what I'm kind of wanting to do is stick that in, maybe get the cover repositioned, or at least the power supply before we kind of spec out everything internally. So we're going to pick up our HX750i. Again, this is the fan. It's very nice. This is the back side, obviously. Word of the wise, you want your plug to go on the back side, all your internal connections to face inside. So we simply want to put that in place. Slides in quite nicely. And this will give you a feel for what that's going to look like. So keep in mind, if you're like, man, that sucks, that's black. We've got the cover right here, actually. And that bad boy will cover it up, and no one will ever see the power supply. So the only person that will know it's there is us, the people watching this video, anyone in general, and of course me, because I'll be cleaning that filter, hopefully not too often. We'll kind of see how it goes early on and then kind of schedule the maintenance. But cool thing about installing it fan down is simply that the text is upright. So right here, these 4 screws that Corsair included, that's going to be where we fasten it. And if I slide this back out a little bit for you, obviously you can kind of pick out where my index finger is here. That's number 1. You got the same thing over here in the corner. Down here, that would be slot 3, and over here, slot 4. What does it look like up against the back? Not too shabby, particularly Fantex use black cased fans, and then they have the black ribs here for our kind of expansion slots. And so from the back side, that actually looks pretty nice. So that's a cool deal. Coming up, there again you have the expansion slots, so, or the I/O shield I should say, and the expansion slots. That's what it looks like right now. I might fasten it down, I might not. I'm still kind of trying to mock things up, pick out how we want them. So before I tighten it, this is not advised anywhere either, but personally I think before I tighten it, I'd kind of like the ability to kick it out just a little like this, and sort of have an easier time making some of my connections, maybe route some of the wires we know we're going to need. So that's where we are at there. Now coming around here, we will, I guess, next kind of slide our optical drive into place. Alright, so let me say this is incredibly awkward how I'm having to stand here. Essentially, this top slot, if you will, that's actually 2 USB 3.0s, 2 2.0s, headphones, microphone, LED, and I think a reset button perhaps. These next 3 are our kind of expansion bays, 5 1/4 drives, right? So what I will try to do, this top slot, I kind of want to get a card reader, so I'm going to attempt to blindly do this for you. I see it coming out. We've got our hands in the right spot. Very simple, as you can see. That pops that out. Now usually this is where I would use my right hand to pick that up from my left hand. Let's see if we can do that. Surprise, surprise, not too shabby. I'll set this on top of the case, and we'll come in. You know, right here, it's sort of toolless, but I don't know. I'm having a hard time believing that would actually keep it anchored in, so I think I will put some mounts, but we've opened that up. That's where we're going to install our drive, and hopefully it will be right at home. So stay tuned. The hardware, of course, will come in and go on this side here. So we'll just kind of anchor it down with maybe a screw up front, screw in the back, and take it from there. Alright, so here we are. This is our optical drive here. It's just going to be your standard CD, DVD, RW setup. Right there, these 4 slots, that's where you can mount them. We only have access to on this side. I flipped the case for your viewing enjoyment. There's what our motherboard looks like with the backing plate installed. You can't tell, but I do have the text upright. Those little things like that bother me. And what I will do is we will come in, and you should see this guy start to appear. Look for the silver. Angle it down for you. And there we go. So he is in place. I can technically slide him out from inside, but speaking of that, I'd like to push him forward just a tad. Again, super awkward here, having to use 2 hands, but trying simply just to line up the slots like I want them. And what I think I will do is probably just use 2 screws, because at this point in time, what is included with the case is all I have, and I don't know what all we'll wind up putting in here. So I think these 2 fixed holes, I'm pretty happy with the position on it. So 1 there, 1 in the back, should keep it in place. So we'll get that in place. This is what it will look like from the front side. Kind of gives it a little character, right? A little something to look at, break up the white a bit. So hopefully we can find a cool card reader that'll kind of tie in with our aesthetics here, but I'll get this thing fastened down and we will take it from there. Alright, so we got that thing mounted. It's secure. It's not going anywhere. We just have to make power and data connections to it, I guess. But wanted to point out, in our Fantex case, if you follow along or maybe use the same thing, slot 3 on the top, the same slot that we sourced our 9 motherboard screws, are what I used right here. And I should point out, since I'm building this myself, every single screw is going to be oriented perfectly, 180, 90 degrees. It's going to be fully upright, each and every single screw that I put into this thing. So it's not OCD, it's a job well done in my opinion. So we're going to move on now, and I guess we will probably go ahead and switch the bracket around for our cooler, kind of mock that up, see where we're at. I will point out, while we've got this turned around, I might ought to do the hard drive, but this is pretty cool. Everything is modular here, so if I decide I want this case gone, I'm not going to have, 10 hard drives or whatever this would max out. 1, 2, 3. I guess it's only 6. But if we decide we're only going to have 3, or we don't need this top section, I can take these out, pull it out, allow better airflow into the case, and then we can just make use of the bottom ones or something. So I might try to think about that, actually, see where we want to position it. But the way these work, very cool. You just squeeze in on it, and that is that, man. You come in and you can kind of fasten everything down from the bottom side, or I'm not sure that you have to, really. I think you can just use these little sliders on the side, and I think it'll lock it into place. So kind of a convenience factor. It's nice not to have to anchor everything in. But there we go. That's where we're at so far. We'll go make some more changes and catch you back then. Alright, we've flipped the case back around. I want to point out one of my big reasons for flipping this cooler to a vertical installation. We've got the RAM installed, we got the bracket still oriented for horizontal, and you think, hey, that doesn't look too shabby, you're just looking at that from the side. What's the big deal? Well, here's the deal. Do you see that differential there between the top of the cooler and the fan? I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I've got it put into position here, and the reason we'd have to elevate it is because, let me get the camera in there, I have no idea what you're looking at, but you should see blue shiny stuff, that's the RAM, and white, that's the case of the fan. And if we had that closer, I mean, you can't do it. We would be like sitting down there. We have to move it up. So essentially where you see the, fins in the clip not being centered, if we were to center it or push it down or something along those lines, we would be screwed because we can't. We have to raise it up. And so by flipping it and having it like this, when we rotate our brackets, I'll be able to recess the flipping fan to not have that ridiculous overlap that I hate. And ultimately, we will clear our RAM, so that should be cool. And it kind of brings out, we can still see the RAM that way. You can't see because of my arm, because I don't have a tripod to use in this case. But trust me, when I anchor this down, I think it will look superior to the horizontal method. So once again, before you hate, Fantech said it's a-okay, no negligible decreases. And for all we know, it'll cool better. So that said, I will quit recording so I can start working, and we will be back and check this thing out. Alright, there we go. We've oriented it vertically now. Only have to take two of the caps completely off, our little screw-on nuts there. The reason I say that is if you were to loosen this one, well, essentially if you loosen this one will swing down, right? Well, actually, let's take this from the top. So if you loosen this one, keep in mind we had this one running across there. So we pull it down and you can just fold it, and you can keep two intact. The riser stayed in place. Everything was simple. And what we've done here, I think, it should look better. It should provide us more clearance, and we'll still be able to see the RAM. We'll then be able to drop down the card and see our LED lights on the board better. One other thing to mention while we're here, these wires that you can see, sort of see, right there where my finger's at when I'm poking on, that is from our LED, the I/O shield. That's the ambient LED. There's the first like black plug, which you can't see at all in there. Kind of. So that's it. It is labeled. That's where you want to put them. It's the first plug right beside your top screw there in the corner. So horrible lighting, my apologies, but that's one of the other things we've done. So I'm now going to stick on the thermal paste and mount this cooler and see what we've got. So stay tuned for that. Alright, want to point out right here, you see these white strips, you're like, what in the world is that? Did not forget them. This is our little silicone anti-vibration dampening strips. They give us 6 of them, again, in case you want to add that third fan, but we put 2 there, 2 more will go there on the back side. But what I want to do now is kind of mock the fan up. Again, to give you an idea, this is the orientation that we have switched to. And so we can kind of see the RAM. You've got full throttle there. I don't know if the fan will interfere with our top PCI slot. Again, right now I don't have anything to put there anyway, in case we put the graphics card down below. But up top you can still kind of see the gigabyte stuff. I can't tell if you can see that or not, but just take my word for it. And so I'm interested to see how much that fan will eat up. Fantech did say they would recommend, one on the bottom, if you will, the one in the middle, and then kind of rely on the case fan up top. So same setup we would have in this orientation. But got the strips on. We'll mount this fan centered, which will be so nice. And then we will see what it all looks like inside the case. Alright, here we are. I've flipped the case over on its side. We've got the first fan installed. I've got them centered. The fans have a bit taller of a dimension than the towers, and it's kind of awkward in my opinion. But anyway, I guess that maximizes airflow, I suppose, on the bright side. We've got our thermal paste down. We're going to use gravity. You'd be a fool to do this upright. You can make your life so much easier if you just kind of let the bracket fall into place. And these little kind of torsion screws they've got are sort of hard to work with anyway. So we're going to put that in. We're going to go for it. We're going to do the vertical installation. Consequences be danged. And we will see what happens. So I can't really film all this stuff, but I'll just kind of show it as we put it into place and anchor it. So stay tuned for that. And this shows you everything in a pretty good light. So we'll take a quick look at that. I have played around. I've got these 2 expansion slots out. I was kind of seeing how things would line up with our graphics card in that second slot. So we'll see if the fan actually covers this up. That's the other thing I'm doing here. So stay tuned. Well, that was a bit of a nightmare. I never really thought of it until we started having trouble. But it turns out that that bracket that secures down with the keyway is not quite as foolproof as I would have liked. The main thing is those brackets that position vertically and horizontally with the 3 holes in them, 2 of them kind of being an egged 8. That's shoddy. I don't do anything like that. If you want adjustability, you have 3 holes. Okay, I don't use the metric system often, but if I'm going to come in and do something small like in a console on a car, I drill 3 to 5 1/8-inch holes and you can adjust it that way. Anytime you egg something, that's like using silicone. It's a horrible way of doing anything. It's not professional. It's not a proper fix. And that was a nightmare. It was truly ridiculous, but it looks pretty decent. And I think what we can conclude here is that the top slot is probably going to be covered, but we do have now like 2 or 3 of the sticks of the RAM visible. The whole sidebar is visible. So all we have to do now is install this fan, which I've reoriented the clips. I've got the plugs back there, and we will attempt to do that. But I can tell you this right now. Any fear I had about water cooling, which I mentioned this before, it's like so simple and clean compared to these massive air coolers. If I build another computer, the CPU will be water cooled, period. I'll take my chance on a leak after this because this was ridiculous. I'm happy with the end product and I hope it cools well. It certainly should. It's got the capacity to, but if something goes wrong in here, I will water cool this because, again, it's just simple. There's a little puck, and we would have full access to all 3 of our slots. It wouldn't cover up the RAM, max visibility. There's a lot of pros that I've realized now to the water cooling in retrospect of just having finally installed this. And again, the problem for me was that chrome bracket right there. In particularly, not the center screw where it's fixed. It's just the 2 outside ones, which again tie in with the brackets that tie in with the brace on the back of the board, and that is a nightmare. Again, if you want 3 holes, you need 3 holes. You don't need 2 connected with an egged out pattern. That's ridiculous, and I can see why now. So not too happy with that. But like I said, I do believe this top slot, you can't really, I mean, the angle I was holding it at, I mean, this is the slot where my index finger is. It's not going to go in straight. We might could get something in there, but I kind of think that ties in better with my idea of putting that down there, maxing out our visibility, and we'll take it from there. But I'm going to stand this thing up. I've got to get this fan in, which that should be fun, but I do have the fan centered, and it still has a little bit of overlap, but it's nothing like we had to bring it up over the RAM. So and we'll see what it looks like, and we will check back in at our next progress point. Alright, there she is. We got our center fan connected, and again, according to Fantex, there should be no differential in the cooling capacities, whether it's mounted vertically like this, where everything is literally kind of like updraft, comes up, flows through, then out the top of the case, or if we came in and we had it mounted in the traditional horizontal way, where everything would just blow front to back, exhausting out the rear. So we'll see how it goes, but now we kind of need to mock up our card here. I've got the 2 expansion slots out. We'll see what goes down, but we'll see what happens. Might change things, not sure, but stay tuned, and we will be having a good time. Alright, so we dropped in our graphics card. We got the GTX 970N. Again, went with the second PCI slot, mainly because this one's a little bit obscured now. And again, I'm kind of wondering about water cooling at this point in time, but if we decide to switch things around or this doesn't read, we'll simply pull the card. That'll be fairly easy. Then we'll just switch that back around to the horizontal orientation have to deal with the fans being jacked up even more than this, which is kind of a downer. Other thing we've done here, I just simply came in, we installed our Y connector, if you will, to the fans. I'll route all this probably through and then back up, because I think our CPU fan header is up here, somewhere obscured now, which is another perk to water cooling, I suppose. Again, nobody tells you about these things. They just tell you, oh, it's superior to air cooling. It's going to give you better performance. This is real world stuff that people should clarify and say, hey, water cooling is also better because this, and this. So I'm not so sure that wouldn't have been a lot easier of a route to go. So nonetheless, we'll route some cables here and see if we can't maybe get some power to this thing and see what happens. So stay tuned and see what happens. Alright, so I've started to kind of wire some of this, even though I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. We've got the two leads from the two fans here on the cooler. They come in, they have the Y splitter. That plug is just right up there. Just for now, we run it through there. We might relocate it to this lower one. I'm not quite sure which would look best at this point in time, but right here there was a white clip. You can kind of see where it's plugged in. That was the CPU fan, so that's essentially, if we had like a little tiny, I guess old school design, that's where that would plug in. Other thing I've done, I've taken the 24-pin power here. It's black. I kind of would like better looking cables, but these are what came with the power supply, and they're free, and money does not grow on trees. So we've got that there. I've got it running down. It'll probably pop in through here. I'm just going to kind of route it through on the back side. We'll eventually stick the power supply here and maybe kind of test run it before we crank that thing down. Probably going to slide in the hard drive now and take it from there, but that's kind of where we at. We haven't done a whole lot, but it kind of gives you, we're back vertical. This thing has not fallen off, so I guess that's good. The card is installed. Pretty heavy, but it's metal reinforced on the board, so that's kind of where we're at. But we will be back as we continue wiring this thing. Alright, so this is simple enough. We just slid out our toolless caddies, kind of highlighted those earlier. I figured we'd probably have to put a screw in these. Now, no, we don't. So basically this side is snapped in. Again, it's very hard to do this with one hand, but this side swinging in the breeze over here, we're going to bring that in and it'll just press into place. And I can't really showcase it very well, but we can hold this like a blizzard upside down type of deal. It's anchored in there. And then of course we can just slide it back into place. And if I can do this with one hand, I assume you can do it with two. So we'll probably have better luck putting that in with two hands, actually. So you get the general idea. Let's see if we can tell what's going on here. There we go. And it snaps into place. So we've got the hard drive installed. Of course, the way these towers are oriented, I think you can swing them around if you want to. But the way it is oriented, you can just route all your power cable supplies and everything to the back side of the case. It won't ever be visible. So got that done. Now we just need to wire the thing up. Alright, so actually, these two are cooling fans, if you will, for the CPU and the white sleeves here. We're going to want to actually unplug that from the motherboard. We're then going to take that same splitter and we're going to trail it here. There's kind of like conflicting information in the manual and the other instructions, but essentially this right here, as you can see, it needs to go to the CPU motherboard fan header. That's what we're going to do. I think this one can be regulated by RPM from there, but they're kind of saying don't use a Y splitter, yet that plug would have to come in there. So I don't know, we're just going to stick it all there and see what happens. But again, essentially right here, this one coming out is going to be plugged into the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Then we'll pull our cooling fans, put them in port 1 on this hub and see what happens. So there we'll go. Also, while we switch, this right here, the blue cap, that should be our USB 3.0. It's so nice that something is color-coded in this. So we'll probably route that through, try to plug it into the motherboard. All of these cables, everything you see running this direction is actually something that should connect to our motherboard. So we'll probably start playing around with those as well. I think everything else is terminated. This little clip here, if you wind up with the same case I did, the Intu Lux, you can't even see it. Luckily we have white over here. The one with the funky back clip wings, or it kind of looks like a little you know, chompy type of thing. That is going to be our LED plug, and you can use that if you purchase the optional interior LEDs, which we did, so we'll kind of keep that in mind. Everything else, though, internally, I think is good, aside from 12-volt input here. I assume that might go to the LEDs. I don't know for sure. We'll trace it backwards. That's the only way I know to do it. And then this right here, I guess you run over to power supply, because it would then feed your entire fan hub here. So could be wrong on some of this. I don't really know. We're just going to swing it as we go. This ought to be like our case speaker, our LED lights on the switch, and just, I guess, USB 2.0 and stuff like that. So main one right here is our 3.0. We care about that one. So we'll get that connected, then we'll have functionality up front, and that's really all I know to tell you, because again, a lot of this I don't know what I'm doing till we do it, and then we won't know if we did what we're supposed to do until we fire this up. But that's what I'll be working on, and we'll be back when it's connected. All right, 3:56 a.m. I've loosely thrown the power supply in, made some connections. Got basically power coming in the top, SATA cables coming in through slot 2 there in the case. Keep in mind the cover will be there and everything, but right now we're just going to see what happens, if anything, when we press the power button. So, here we go. It would help if we turned it on, right? Okay, so let's try that again. Oh, good Lord. We've done it. We did something. Something not quite right. But we will figure this out. So I'm going to go see if I'm getting a readout on the monitor, and we will take it from there. 4:40 a.m. It is Tuesday, December 15th. Didn't have that little power supply connector up there. Apparently the little 8-pin, I guess, 4x2 one. Don't know if that's going to fix it or not. So, gone ahead, I've reconnected the graphics card, the LED lights. Didn't connect the hard drives or anything, just in the event that it kind of doesn't do anything again. But let's come in here, and we're going to hit the power button. 5 seconds is our max. Oh, the motherboard's lit up. I think we did it. Okay, we've got 32. That's probably 35. Are those error codes? I think it's still running. It's a small miracle. That is why I moved the graphics card. I didn't want to cover that up. Now, we do have case lights as well. It killed itself, didn't it? Dadgum. It's back on. Alright. Maybe I didn't reconnect the LEDs. Anyway, 99. Let's see. Well, we're at least making progress here. AB. Okay, or A6. Don't know for sure. Probably need to be researching this cant with the camera in my hand. But, hey, not too sure. Oh, I know why. Alright. Is it bad? It's probably bad to randomly connect stuff. That's why we don't have case LEDs. Didn't reconnect the power supply end of it. We're running, though. And, I should probably get a display going. So I will do that. I can't really film it, but we're up and going. So we'll stay tuned. Alright, so whatever we've done here, we're still running. We got 64 on. The display is a black screen with a giant mouse cursor. Don't quite know how to get to BIOS from here, so I think we're going to kill the system, turn it back on, try to do that, because we didn't have any peripherals attached at the time, because we didn't quite know what would happen. But here we are, man. This is lit up. It's kind of in the breathing mode. It's just primarily red, which is fitting since that's red. The mouse is blue, which turns out to be nice. The LED lights on that. And again, we're going to kill this and see if we can kind of get it going again. But the CPU cooler, the fans are turning. Do you hear them? You don't? That's the point. That is nice. So I don't quite know. Looks like the front fan might be spinning as well. The two case fans are not spinning at all. And I don't know if on startup they like ramp up really high or if they'll be quieter. But we do have those auxiliary fans I brought in. But the front case fan is going. It is whisper quiet just like these two, so that's cool. We'll have to see what it does under load, but for now I guess I'll kill this and we will come back in. But hey, we've got our precious LED lighting on the motherboard exposed. We have got the keyboard here, which is a good thing. I like blue because I'm assuming since the thumbstick keys are blue, and there were indicator lights and the profile indicator light are blue, those are probably always blue, and that really sucks if you want any other color, but luckily that's our color. And again, the mouse will tie in quite nicely with that. But anyway, I will try to progress here and we will be back shortly. Alright, we did it. All I did is I hit reset on the case. We are in. We have got the BIOS up here. It's kind of an odd setup that I've got because I've got a half assembled computer and huge cable runs across the room in all directions, but we're here. And I guess I'll play around here again and try to figure out what to do. And I should probably, now that we know we're functional, go ahead and, you know, put the hard drives back connected and everything. So nonetheless, we'll play around here, and we're at least making progress. So here we are in the dark with the keyboard breathing. We're still in BIOS mode. I'm just kind of trying to stretch out the mouse cable, but it is alive, and that is very exciting. Oh yeah, you see that right there? We don't have any disks installed, we don't have the operating system installed, but by gosh, I got into the BIOS and we changed our LED color. The trace LED there to blue. Kind of looks white. I think with the lights out it'll be a little bit more of a blue tone. It actually looks blue coming off the black, which is nice. This thing is whisper quiet, which is amazing. And coming around to the back side here, we've got the blue panel. Lots of air coming out from the stock fan, so that's a good sign. And overall, coming together quite nicely. So we'll be dialing this in. I think I'm going to kill this and then simply reconnect my hard drives. Try to figure out how to install an operating system now. So that should be fun. That should keep me up until sunrise. And hopefully we will get a little sleep and have some more fun here. So stay tuned. It is time for the light show. It's like 5 something in the morning, and we've got this thing running. I got Windows 10 kind of setting up, although I'm not quite sure what to do with it. And, right here though, this is our LED switch, and so I don't know if that's white or purple. That's kind of like a sky blue. Camera's not going to show it super well, but you'll get a feel for it. We've got kind of like a green color here, and then I think that would be blue, like a darker blue. Complements nicely with what we did to the board, which has apparently been saved, which is a small miracle. Let's see here. Purpley pink. I guess if you're into that, it's actually kind of a cool look. It would look really good on black, that shade. This is red, not my color scheme, but it does match the board nicely. And then we've got like a really good green right here. Back to kind of a blue, pink. There's an orange color. Kind of like that actually as well. It would look way better with a black case though. And then I think that's where we started, kind of this like white color. So there's our sky blue, teal blue, blue, purple, red, green. That's our dark blue. So this will be dark blue that we'll have on our case. We'll get some interior lights as well. But you can kind of see how it'll look with the motherboard lit up. And then coming around, you can see the rear I/O shield, which you can actually read if you wanted to. So the text is sort of default red, but the backlighting, even though you can't see it, is blue. So there we go, it's back. And here we go. So like I said, early AM hours. But we've got this thing set up. We're in BIOS. We're going to try to install an operating system, and surprisingly, I think it might work. So we've done good thus far. So thank you, Internet. This brings back some memories. It is currently 7:17 a.m. I've yet to go to bed, and we've got Windows 10 up and running, and we just beat Free Cell. It was my first game back ever, and not rusty in the slightest. So congratulations. We're dead tired. It's 7 in the morning. We completed it in about the time that it is on the clock. And games played 1, games won 1, Win percentage 100. This is why you build a gaming computer, so you can conquer free cells. So anyway, I think I'm gonna get some sleep, and I will catch you back here later. Alright, so here we are. We've been running the computer. We got Windows 10 up and going. Brought it back over here to the pool table. Cannot get the Ethernet to work, so we'll just, I guess, have to order in a Wi-Fi adapter or something. But what I've done is sort of tidied up the cables a little bit as best we can. There's not a lot of flex with some, and with others there's too much flex, and you can't really manipulate them like you would like. I suppose I could tie them back a bit more, but as is, I'll just let the case kind of crumple them in to their proper position. But the thing that bothered me, they put their Fantex logo upside down on all these Velcro straps in this column. I just decided to leave it because I might be adding in some things that would require new SATA cables and power connectors, obviously, with that. So kind of gonna wing that. But let's see here, what have we done? We've got the LEDs connected. The only thing that's kind of an issue, when we come up here, obviously this side is the solid white panel, so we can't see jack. And then the problem I've got is there's really nowhere for me to route this cable to that side in an inconspicuous manner to orient it where I need. The adhesive on their strip LED is horrible, and the problem is the backing tape also is coming off. But I will be working on that, and we will then, I guess, button this thing up for the time being, so stay tuned. Speaking of cable management, though, before we kind of try to figure out how to route our LED strip, this is what it's looking like on the inside. I think it looks pretty decent. Basically, we've just got all our power cables and fan cables going out the top slot there, the top oval. Bottom oval is exclusively for the SATA data connector stuff. So up top, we've got the fan cables off the CPU fan header, and then we've got our 8-pin power. The mess you see in the corner in multicolor, that's just the ambient LED for the back plate. This right here will be, obviously, we're going to pull these from our graphics card, install the Fantex cover plate there, and then we will simply pull this back out and route it there. So overall, coming together nicely. Again, we'll button that thing up and should have a good feel for the interior at that. Alright, so that is the remnants of our interior LEDs. That adhesive is wretched. It's like the worst double-sided tape I've ever seen. Most of it actually stayed attached to the backing paper, which is not a good sign. Needless to say, altered my plans. Initially, I thought, we might trace it essentially from right back there at the corner of the case along the top, along the inside channel, coming down here, and then going across through the bottom channel. That would interfere with removing the power supply cover, which we put back in place. Other thing, there's just really not the clearances that you need here. There's like all those little case studs that I guess are clips or fascia pieces or something. And so the adhesive is bad. But there's a few places I've hidden like cable ties and bread tie type things, but the trick to any good lighting job, and the way that I do automotive stuff, which not many people do, especially with automotive stuff, hide the light. Don't let people see the source of the light. Let them see the light. And so that's what we've done here. Instead of seeing, a strip of LEDs across the back of the case or here on the power supply pointed up, there'll just be the glow coming down, and that's what we want. So we've got it. All I have to do now is just these two clips here for the LED. We just have to connect those. I'll do that on the back side. Then I might put the case covers, like the side panels, back on. I'm not 100% sure, mainly because I think I've got to get a Wi-Fi card. So that said, we'll see what happens, and we will catch you back here shortly.